Yes, hello, and welcome to Release the Creative, your favorite show about creativity, cognition, and this week, if it was free, then you were the product.
But I love free things.
Everyone loves free things, which is why it's so easy to productify you. I didn't write that line. That line is actually from the Netflix original.
Is it a documentary?
Yes, it's called The Social. I feel stupid now.
I don't think I know this one.
No, we talked about it the other day. Hold on.
This is a documentary on Netflix.
Yes. Documentary, social dilemma. The social dilemma. And it literally is about the monetization of social media.
Yeah.
And they have some amazing people on it. Everything from the guy who helped at Pinterest and at Facebook and at pretty much every major social media, how they turned talking into money. And because Mark Zuckerberg, if you go back to the early days of, he didn't want to just be charging people to use a service. He didn't want to be a service provider. He was very early in not knowing how he was going to monetize it, but knowing it was not going to be monetized in a way that people understood.
That's the Silicon Valley way, is to make something and figure it out later.
And so there's this documentary on Netflix that I am not sponsored by Netflix in any way. Mark Randolph did sponsor my book. Just saying. I say sponsored. He endorsed my book. But I will say that I'm not going to tell you, rush out and see it. It's so good. It's fine. It's good. I'm not going to tell you, like, it totally changed my view. It didn't. I knew most of it. But what I will say is the takeaway for me, the thing that I'd never phrased like that, was the title of this episode. If it was free, then you were the product.
Yeah,
which is not a new concept, but like I was like, oh, that's a good way of boiling that concept down. Whether you are watching the nightly news or you are playing Candy Crush, like, I almost don't mind, like, which is why I love, they're like, for $4.99 you can turn off ads, and I hit $4.99 immediately almost every time, because I would love to spend $5 rather than you hoard my data and serve me ads for other games.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I like a good paid app, because it usually, not always, but it usually avoids a lot of trouble.
No, and using my Apple Mail versus using my Google Mail, the difference in what happens when I email from my Google and tell them all about the things going on versus when I email from Apple and tell them that the difference in my internet history immediately after is palpable. It's because Google is reading my emails and they admit to that. That's not a secret.
Yeah.
And Apple does not. And they tout that. Like, you're paying a lot more for an Apple, so they don't have to subsidize with selling your soul.
And that's actually what's been going on this week. I was talking to you this morning about, Facebook is running ads all over the place because Apple is, in the next phone update, their next software update, they're going to start requiring that these apps tell you what data they're tracking.
Right.
And Facebook's not too happy about that.
Oh, of course not, because the answer is all of it. They're listening to you, and we know that. That's not even a conspiracy theory anymore. They're listening to you. They're listening for keywords. They basically are Batman at the end of the Dark Knight, not Dark Knight, the Batman Begins.
No, that was, you had it right. That was the second one.
You're right.
Yeah.
And Lucius Fox is like, no one should have this much power. And Mark Zuckerberg's in the corner going, like I'm gonna hide under the desk.
Yeah, it's one of those sci-fi movies that understates the real world.
Because the thing is, it was happening at the time. They was like, I invented this new thing, and all these people are like, no, he didn't. Like, we've been doing that for years.
So yeah, what's interesting here is, we run a small business and we advertise to people, and what Facebook, it's running. Yeah. What Facebook's reply to Apple is that what Apple is doing is, when you first load any of these apps,
sure,
it will say, hey, this app is tracking this data in this way. Do you want to let it keep doing that? Yes or no? And they're not stopping them from doing it. No. It's just yes or no.
It's informed consent.
Very, very clear. And that's exactly Apple's point of view, is it's informed consent. If you go into a store and pick something up and decide to buy it or not, the store can't force you to buy it. You have a choice of what store you go in and what, right. and so Apple's argument is, everyone using Facebook doesn't, they're not saying yes or no. It's just happening.
And much like if I go to Best Buy and I pick up the Bose headphones, I walk around for 45 minutes, then put them down. Chaz from the Geek Squad doesn't call me later and go, hey, Kirk, we noticed that you were walking around the store for 45 minutes today, and you really looked at those Bose headphones. It looked real. Are you sure you don't want to come back in and pick those up? You know what? We'll even mail them to you. Like, that doesn't happen. Thank God.
Yeah, it's not a real world thing, but we've gotten used to it being an online thing. And so, yeah, Apple says, hey, we're going to tell people yes or no. And I think most people are going to say no, obviously.
I do too.
Which is, Facebook can't come out and say that, but their response is, oh, well, it's going to hurt small businesses because small businesses need to do targeted advertising, which is an interesting... Now, targeted advertising is a lot of what we do here. Because that is the way the world works. But going back in time, it didn't used to be a thing. Small businesses used to exist.
Yep.
So, there might be some changes coming, and I don't think that we're going to go out of business because of it.
No, I mean, and so here's what's so interesting about this, and to look at this from the big picture, from my narrow mind, and I mean, nothing I just said was ironic, nor meant to be I have a very narrow view. I only know what I know, but I have to look at the big picture because that's literally my job. It used to be, not too many years ago, when you bought gas, it was the same price whether you paid cash or card. But and the store just swallowed that 3% that we as the populace knew about, sort of, but we didn't really. And then as cards and pay at the pump and things became a lot bigger, that price started changing to the point where they'll advertise at cash price, and there's a higher price on credit or
Chinese restaurants have a minimum order.
Or a minimum, they started doing things to ensure that they were protected. Now that's just business. There's nothing wrong with that. So the question becomes, I'm not saying day one, I'm not saying month one, I'm not saying year one, but if they don't come up with a different way to monetize, if they don't find a way to make their product the product instead of their user the product, are we going to start seeing with like you do on the Candy Crush games, $4.99 and ads go away? Will you be able to sign into Facebook, pay $3 a month, $10 a month, $15 a month for Facebook with a catered experience set by you, or it's free as it's always been? If you
you've actually hit the other argument Facebook is making, is that they're not even saying, oh, Facebook will cost money. They're saying all of these free apps you use, there's tons of free apps. They're all making money off of this kind of advertising.
Absolutely.
And so they're saying if we go down this road, you might not have as many free apps anymore.
Good.
And that's not a persuasive argument to me, but that is the argument they're making, is that the ability to go online and just get tons of free software.
If you don't be careful, designers are going to have to make better products that you actually want to pay for. Instead of just shoveling free crap, you're going to have to design, implement, and program good programming that works instead of subsidizing your garbage with advertisement. If you're not careful, is better products what you want? Yes.
Yeah, going back to the 90s, I've been an Apple guy for a long time.
Yeah.
And nowadays,
before me, actually,
these days a lot of stuff is similar between all platforms because it's all internet, it's all app based. It's all, if you get Facebook on your Android or your Mac or it's kind of the same thing everywhere. But 20 years ago there was a much bigger distinction between the Windows world and the Mac world, whereas Windows people love to say, oh, we could everything you want to do, there's 100 apps for it,
right?
And Mac people only have 2 choices, and the 2 choices are expensive. You got to buy an expensive video editor instead of a free, and the argument for the Mac people was always, there's 2 expensive apps, but they're both amazing. And on Windows, there's 1 amazing app and 99 terrible ones.
Yeah. Made by some guy in his basement. Nothing against basement dwellers. And
that's kind of where the internet went. And when Apple started the iPhone, you remember when games were $10, $20? The first...
Honestly, no.
Yeah, well, the first year of the App Store, this was 2008.
Bubble Wrap, totally free. Lightsaber app, 99 cents.
Yeah, there was definitely some free ones, but there was a bunch of $5 to $20 games, and a lot of apps were in the $5 to $10 range. And then over the next 3 years, it slid to where nope, everything's 99 cents. Everything's $1. And then it slid even more to, nope, got to be free.
I remember 6-7 years ago, my friends were like, oh my God, there was a meme about it. What do you mean apps cost 99 cents in the App Store? That's what's wrong with Apple. On the Google Store, everything's free. I'm like, boy, nothing is free. And again, I'm not that guy. I'm not the nothing's free in life guy. I'm really not that guy. But I'm saying if Silicon Valley is giving it to you for free, they're getting something out of it. They are.
Yeah. There's
what?
There, and that is... we can debate this all day as to how the world should work, but from our point of view, if Apple is taking this approach, they have a habit of being very disruptive. Even if they don't contain the whole market,
Yeah.
they contain enough of it that if this is how it works in Apple, well, now your marketing strategy's got to change. And so this is going to be, I think that it took, I was saying to you this morning, remember when, air quotes, Apple killed Flash.
Right.
Now, Flash was on its way out. It was never going to survive.
For the record, Flash was still an active program until this year, and Apple killed it 5 years ago.
They finally turned it off like about 2 weeks ago. But yeah, the security problems and the ways it just did not run well on mobile, and it never was.
It was never going to.
It was eventually going to die no matter what. But Apple certainly sped up that process by taking a stance on it.
They pulled the plug and just let it gasp for breath.
And that's, I think, what we're going to see here is that the Facebook model, or the free app model of we just track you everywhere and do everything, that's going to be changing over the next 5 years. And so if you're in the business of having a small business, you need to start looking to what's next. Going on Facebook and saying, I want to track this exact kind of person and pay $12 to reach that one guy and nobody else in town. There will be things like that, but that's not going to be like the way in the future.
One could argue that instead of worrying about analytics, you should start worrying about the cognition of your customer, so that you could make content cater to them rather than pay Facebook to make sure that it gets seen by them. I'm just saying, if I was a guy that studied human cognition of people, that might be where I was putting my money.
Yeah. Facebook has made it sound like what they've been doing for 20 years is the only way the world can work.
Nope.
And there was a lot of world before that, and
blasphemy.
There was a lot of advertising before that.
People born in the year 2000 can drink now. I'm just throwing that out there.
Oh, I actually saw online the other day this may be one of the latest or final versions of the Y2K bug. It just came about, was the those electronic signs they have in gas stations where like you have to be born on this date or before to buy alcohol.
Sure.
And it's just a LED screen and like in a beer advertisement.
Right,
but it flipped over this year to you have to have been born on this date or before in the year 1900. So it's been 21 years since Y2K, and
it's still
this
there.
one slipped through.
I'm just telling you, man, like, I remember that being the first thing that was going to end the world in my lifetime. I remember Y2K being such a big deal. I graduated in the year 2000 for those. I graduated in 2000, and it was such a big deal my senior year. Like, all our computers are going to be destroyed.
Yeah.
And
the far end of the conspiracy theory was airplanes are going to crash into nuclear power plants and we're all going to actually die. But, even short of that, everybody was like, should I withdraw all my cash from the bank?
Yeah,
it's like, well, how careful do I need to be?
It's been crazy. But so it's an interesting dilemma that we're having, is that people love convenience. They love the products are signed up right for me. They're perfect. They're this, they're that. People really do love that, and we've become very accustomed to it. Apple, who has never been a computer company, they've never been a software company, they've never been a music company, they have always, and I can back this up, I'm not going to because it would take way too time, they have been a disruption company since before they were Apple. Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak were never about making software. They were about just shoving it to the man from day one.
Intel's new CEO refers to them as a lifestyle company, which I might say complements what you just said.
Yeah, no, I mean, like they the first thing that they did was they made the I can't remember, the beige box, the red box, the box that made it so you could rip off the phone company making long distance calls. Right. The second thing they did was to try to screw over IBM. I mean, they went after Ma Bell, they went after IBM, then they went over the record industry, then they've gone over Hollywood. Like they're literally they just pick an industry and attack like locusts. And for the record, I mean that as a good thing. I remember a few years ago, I decided that all of the hype was correct and that Apple wasn't all that. And I left Apple because I wanted a Samsung watch. And I hate the Apple Watch. I still hate the Apple Watch. Fix it, guys. It's awful. It's garbage. And I've had one, and I've had the most expensive one, and they're garbage. But so I left and I got a Samsung Galaxy S something and the Galaxy Watch. Loved the watch, most amazing piece of tech I've ever owned. Hated the phone with all that I am. But the reason I went back to Apple was not that the phone was garbage, because there's 1,000 other phones. There's 1,000 other phones. There's LG and Samsung and Google. And the reason I went back is that as the phone was broken, I took it back to the store that I bought it at, which was an AT&T store. And they couldn't help me. They're like, oh yeah, we're really sorry. You'll have to contact Samsung. So I did. I contacted Samsung, and they're like, "Oh, yeah, we're sorry. You should go to your phone carrier." And I'm like, "They sent me to you." And he's like, "Oh, you should take it to Best Buy. They have a Geek Squad there. They'll be able to help you with the technical." I'm like, "I don't." Okay, cool. So I took it to Geek Squad, and they're like, "Oh, sorry. Yeah, this is weird. It seems to be working, but we definitely see the problem. You should contact your warranty company." And I'm like, okay. So I contacted my warranty company. I was like, my phone is broken. And they're like, "Oh, cool. Send us $300. It's a $1,000 phone. Send us $300, which is your deductible, and we'll send you a new one." So I was down my phone about 18 hours. My phone was kind of out for about a day. And I got a new one, but that whole story took 8-9 days and 7 different trips for me. When my iPhone breaks, not pretending iPhones don't break, I walk into an Apple store and walk out with a new one 45 minutes later for $99, or most of the time less. I have a tendency of being able to talk myself into a free phone, but that's a me
That's
thing.
a Kirk ability.
That's it. I talk myself out of the $99 like 90% of the time, but I will happily pay twice as much for someone to give a damn about me, because I'm the customer, not the product. They want to keep me happy and my phone happy, so that I'll spend another $1,500 on. They're like, "Oh my gosh, the iPhones are twice as much, and they're not even better." I don't argue with anything you just said. They are twice as much, and they aren't better. But when something goes wrong, somebody cares. That's worth it.
Right, and that's sort of the walled garden approach expanded not just to software, but to hardware too.
But kind of to circle that back around, we've been seeing a lot of people recently realizing that their platform is not their product. Their people on the Reddit isn't a product. Redditors are a product. Facebook's not a product. Facebook users are the product. It's the delivery system. And we're seeing some really interesting ways of, I don't like the word, manipulating the message through the product.
Yeah, they've got once a thing is a thing, it can get influence from different directions.
Absolutely.
I know there's a lot of talk about the Redditors buying all the game stock, and
I love this story, although I don't understand it.
We're not. Well, here, I'll explain it to you. We're not getting into the finances details, but the messaging at the end of the story is what interests us. But yeah, so I mean, to basically explain this, do you know what a shorting a stock is?
You know what? I do, but let's just pretend I don't.
Yeah, so the idea is that buying a stock is you are betting it's going to go up.
Right.
And the most simple version is shorting a stock is betting it's going to go down. But how does that work? That's the part I've been finding out this week. Nobody online knew about. But it's a very weird thing where you can sell something you don't own. So let's say a stock of keyboard ink is $100 right now. It's $100 to buy keyboard ink, and I say to you, I'm going to give you 5 shares of keyboard ink, and you say, cool, you give me $500.
Right.
So you've given me $500 for 5 $100 stocks.
Sure.
I don't have them, and I don't owe them to you yet. What I'm betting on is next week the price will go down to $90. I'll buy 5 for $90 and give you the stocks. So okay, that's very simplified, but
right.
The idea is that you are selling someone a thing, promising you'll deliver it later.
Sure.
And then hoping that between now and then you can buy it cheaper than it costs right now.
Gotcha.
That's the basic idea. And that is a way that if stocks, if you think there's a bubble, that's a way, and that's where people say shorting is I won't say legitimate, a useful thing. Sure. Is that it keeps bubbles in check. Because if bubbles start getting too big, people start shorting it, and it starts to become apparent. Like that's a sign that the bubbles are getting too big.
Because you can, to a certain degree, you can see who is shorting it.
Yeah, that's all out. That's all public information, and so it's kind of a check and a balance. Where some people are betting this way, some people are betting that way, and it's on the scale. And okay, cool, great. What happened in this case, and what happens in a lot of cases in stores like GameStop, or what happened with Toys R Us or AMC theaters, if Wall Street is like, oh, these things are going to go out of business, well, this is a great time to short something, because if I tell you I owe you 5 stocks of keyboard ink and you give me money, and then next week keyboard ink goes out of business, I get to keep the $500 and I owe you nothing. So if you were shorting a stock where it goes out of business, so people have been jumping onto GameStop. Obviously, This seems like a bad business model to be selling cartridges, video game cartridges.
Especially since the PS5 has an option that's $100 cheaper that has absolutely no disc slot.
Everyone's moving to
optical only and things like that.
Not cartridges, And so Wall Street said, cool, we're going to buy a lot of GameStop, and when it goes out of business, we're going to celebrate. What the people on Reddit noticed was not only that they were doing that, they went in so much. They had shorted 140% of GameStop because nobody's checking on like each company did it several times. And this is like we were watching the Mel Brooks movie The Producers a few weeks ago. It's the same plot but in Wall Street instead of the theater.
Right.
But basically they had shorted more than existed.
Yeah, that's the part that I heard about, is that there's nefariousness of people are shorting stocks they don't own, which I am not a financial guy.
That's how it works. That's normal. That's normal, but it shouldn't be more than the company exists. And I say shouldn't in a sort of moral way. There's not a rule against it. Like this company shorted half of it, this company shorted half of it, and oh look, another company shorted half of it. Something
about like all I know is that they're investigating counterfeit stocks because stocks were shorted that don't exist, which is a whole different thing that I don't understand. This is not the point of this show. We wanted to get to the comms.
That part I'm not detailed on, but what happened was they left themselves exposed to, so the Redditors bought it, and so the stock was like $5 a share.
Sure.
And they were hoping it would go down to $3 a share and they'd make a lot of money. Well, it went up to $300 a share.
Which is a total bubble, because that's not, like, again, shorting it was the right move. GameStop is going to die.
Well, but so here's the interesting part. You just said it's a bubble, and here's where the messaging comes in, is the people on Wall Street, the hedge funds, are losing a ton of money. This is the interesting thing. On a stock, you can only lose 100% of the money you put in. If you buy $1 million in a company and it goes out of business, you lost $1 million.
Right.
When you short, your losses are theoretically infinite, because what you have done is promised to buy a thing for someone, and if the price of that thing keeps going up, the price you owe to buy it keeps going up, and there's no ceiling.
So now...
And so here's the problem. It went to 300 and they all lost $20 billion on paper until they lock it in.
And then people started selling.
But if it goes to $600, then they've lost $70 billion. If it goes to $1,000, they've lost $100 billion. Like, the price could keep going up.
Sure.
And so this is why they're panicking and pushing back. And here's
Viva la revolution.
Yeah, here's where the messaging comes in. A lot of the financial networks and these guys that work for these hedge funds are going on cable TV and saying what you just said. Oh, it's a bubble. They're not basing the value on GameStop. They're just manipulating the market. GameStop is not worth $300.
Okay.
Yes, but it's not. At this point, they have a thing you want to buy. You have to buy.
Right.
So it is worth $300.
Right. I remember when I first heard, my Marcus Lemonis the Prophet. I love you, man. I know you don't listen to my podcast, but boy, if you would. Marcus Lemonis the Prophet is one of my favorite shows on, I think CNBC is where I watch it, but whatever. When he explained how, I think it was Kim Kardashian, was worth $1 billion or something.
Yeah.
And people were like, oh my gosh, that's so crazy. And he came forward. He's like, no, it's not crazy. He's like, you have to understand that its value is not made up. It's not imaginary, but it's 100% value based.
So this stock has changed from representing GameStop to being value based.
Right. Exactly. And so many things. Tesla went up something like 6,000% in the last.
Yeah.
It's not based off their product. It's based off their ideals. It's based off of their future, not their current. Same thing with Bitcoin. So there's a lot of these things that aren't based on their current. It's based on their potential.
Even that I would call more of a unsustainable bubble, because eventually it's got to be based on something. Eventually a stock has to be based on something.
Right.
In this case, though, it's based on an inelastic. The people have to buy it. The best meme I saw about this week was. This drug costs $3 to make and you need it or you're going to die, so we're going to charge $300 for it.
Sure.
And you got to pay it,
like the insulin bro.
Yeah, the insulin bro. And so it only costs $3 to make. We're going to sell it for $300 because you have to buy it. And the meme said, good capitalism, thumbs up.
Right.
And then it says, GameStop stock, they have to buy it because they're contractually obligated to buy it. We're going to charge $300 because you have to do it. And there's no, that's bad capitalism. And it's like, no, it's really honestly the same thing.
It's the same thing.
You have a thing that you need to buy. I own it. I will charge more for it.
Now, really, if you're listening to this podcast for financial advice, oh my gosh, are you in the wrong place?
Terrible idea.
Place. What that was a background on to get to the media manipulation that I think is hysterical, which was what we were talking about a minute ago.
Yeah. So what has been going? So the first thing to understand is they're calling it Wall Street versus Redditors.
Right.
Well, yeah, if Redditors are making a lot of money doing this, what do you want to bet there's also Wall Street guys, they've dug in. It's like, oh, look, a bunch of people making small trades against Wall Street, and look, somebody just bought $5 million worth of GameStop. That's not a Redditor.
That's not a Redditor. That's a hedge fund.
That's a hedge fund playing against themselves, because obviously if someone's making money, they're going to jump into. So it gets muddy in the sense that they want to show it as like Wall Street versus the little guy.
Right.
Well, it's both people everywhere. Right. But that aside, if we're going to take the stereotype of Wall Street versus the little guy, Wall Street has noticed, everyone online is kind of a horde, right? And so they have started putting out news stories. So there was one this week where they said, Redditors are buying silver. They're investing in silver. That's the new thing. They're going to take down Wall Street. They're going to stick it to the man by buying silver. And there's been articles about this, and people on Reddit in these forums, they're like, we didn't say that. Like, who's buying silver, and how does that hurt anyone? Look, buying silver helps these like 6 companies, and it doesn't hurt anyone. So like basically someone on Wall Street is like, cool, we'll just put out news stories about what Redditors are doing, and people will follow that. They're trying to co-opt the mob, I guess. No, and
I do not want to be seen as being an angry Cheeto yelling fake news. I really am averse to that narrative.
Yeah, it's not fake. It's
everything on television was written by someone like me. Yeah, everything.
It's targeted. It's got a purpose.
Like it's like I was talking to my dad the other day about, and he was angry at the news. And this is a man who listens to Rush Limbaugh and Coulter, and he's not particularly conservative. That was just he listens to kind of everything, and he stays really informed and gets really angry about a lot of the stuff, which he should, because but everything that you see coming over a major airways, from Wolf Blitzer to Jon Stewart to John Oliver to Rush Limbaugh, it's the same entertainment value as professional wrestling. It's intended to be interesting and true-ish.
Yeah, and it's always been the case that, who paid Walter Cronkite, somebody paid his paycheck.
Right.
But
it's not that he wasn't true.
But what has changed is everything has sped up and exploded. Back then, he had a half an hour to just talk, and there was only 3 channels, and so they took their time.
And there was only once a day.
Yeah.
Like, what really changed the game, and we're not going down this rabbit hole, is when CNN piloted the 24-hour news network, it used to be you had the 7 o'clock news, the 11 o'clock news, and the morning news. So all day long, 3 different companies could play chess and joust with the information. And now we live in a Reddit economy where you have 14 seconds to get it wrong. Yeah,
I mean, now if you watch cable news, which is the like instant all the time cable news on, they're still behind the internet. If you were reading on the internet, if like a bomb has gone off somewhere and you're reading,
it's on Twitter first,
Twitter and Reddit, you're gonna know more than CNN does for about an hour.
Yep.
Which is fun but also scary.
So to circle this back to the true thesis of, if it's free, you're the product, and that includes if you're watching television, if you're on Reddit, if you are on Facebook, if you aren't paying for it, they're getting their money somewhere. People, for the most part, don't do things out of the goodness of their heart. They're doing it for a purpose, and the kind of global purpose is money. And I hate that I just said that, but it's objectively true. If it was free, why? Where did the money come from? These news stories about the GameStop thing. Oh, they're buying up silver. No, they're not. That's a media manipulation of a market manipulation to move the needle. And storytelling is a remarkably powerful thing, but you need to be weary of where you're getting your stories and who's telling you the stories and why they're telling those stories. Because again, third time, if it was free, you're the product.
Well, we'll remember that, and we will be back next week. We'll see you here.
Awesome. See you next time, guys.
Thanks for joining us here at Release the Creative. Kirk here would never say it to your face, but he thinks you should like and subscribe to us on YouTube.
And Jeff is far too shy to admit it, but he thinks you should subscribe to us on your favorite podcast reader.
Yeah? Well, you're the one who's always saying that everyone should give us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts.
Why do you have to make everything so difficult?